Okay, right, we've been at this for hours now. Surely it can't be that difficult to come up with a name for our game, one that screams, by me, we're better than everyone else. I mean, everything these days is 3D, 3D, 3D.
What about 4D?
That's brilliant! One better than 3D. Why didn't I think of that one? Nobody can argue with that. I don't think anyone even knows what the fourth dimension is.
Well, actually, it's been scientifically theorised that there are actually 10 dimensions.
I don't think anyone cares
and the
either.
fourth one is
Fantastic.
theoretically-
Can have a whole series of these. Hello everyone, welcome to the Re-Review, the series where I get to replay and reassess games from my favourite gaming era. I'm Brian, also known as UK Gen Zoidberg, and I've been playing and writing about video games for over 30 years now. This began way back in 1990 when I used to attend the offices of ST Action magazine in order to take a look at some new games and offer up my opinions. This eventually led to a job writing for magazines such as Games X and Amiga Action. I reviewed many games in my time, and in this series I'm going to be taking a look at all of those original reviews, replaying the games, and then seeing whether or not I agree with my original assessment. The game that I'm going to be playing in this episode is 4D Sports Driving, which was published in 1992 by Mindscape and developed by Distinctive Software. Quick question for you. When it comes to racing games on the Amiga, which developer do you think made the most? Was it Probe Software, who made 4? Or maybe Magnetic Fields or Titus, who both made an impressive 5? The answer is in fact a little known Canadian company called Distinctive Software, or DSI. Starting in 1987 with Test Drive, they made 6 titles that all came out on the Amiga. There was actually supposed to be a 7th as well, Mario Andretti's Racing Challenge. I reviewed the PC version of that for Games X magazine, but for some reason EA opted not to release the Amiga version. The company was founded in 1982 by Don Mattrick and Jeff Sember, and their first release was the Apple II version of the Commodore 64 flight simulator, the Dam Busters. This was published by Accolade, who would also be the publisher that they'd worked with on their next game, baseball simulator Hardball, in 1985. This was a game that put their names on the lips of gamers all over the world. However, it was 1987's Test Drive that was the first game where I noticed their name. This was the first racing game that I played where I could drive exotic sports cars at high speed. With 5 cars to choose from, a twisting mountain road to race along, and the possibility of police to try and evade, it was great fun. They followed up its success with a sequel, The Duel, in 1989, and although that one only had 2 cars to race in, the Porsche 959 and the Ferrari F40, it also featured a greater number of locations to race in and lots of different race types. The Test Drive series has gone on to be a mainstay of gaming for all of the years since, appearing on virtually every console that you can think of. The latest version of which, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, is actually due out in 2024 and is one of my most anticipated games of this year. This brings us to the short-lived 4D Sports series published by Mindscape. It began with 4D Sports Tennis in 1990, which only came out on the PC, and then was followed up shortly after that by 4D Sports Boxing. Although I didn't review that one in Games X, it scored only 2 stars, stating that it lacked both depth and playability. 4D Sports Driving, also known as Stunts in some regions, arrived in early 1992 and was clearly inspired by the Atari arcade game Hard Driving. Although they had a reputation for decent PC games, the only other Amiga games made by Distinctive were a couple of educational titles starring Mickey Mouse and a point-and-click adventure based on the Dick Tracy comic strip. In 1991, Distinctive was sold to EA in a deal worth $10 million, and their name was changed to EA Canada. These days they're known as EA Vancouver, and have spent the last couple of decades making annual entries in the FIFA and NHL series. They were also the creators and developers of every game in the SSX series too, and I think I speak for many gamers all over the world when I say, can we have some more of that one please? Don Mattrick stayed on at the company and would have various leadership roles at EA throughout the years before going on to join Microsoft's Xbox division in 2005. During his time with Xbox, he was instrumental in the creation and production of the Kinect hardware, but I think he will probably be most well known to gamers for the infamous Xbox One reveal in 2013. Now let's cast our minds back to 1992 and see what I thought of 4D sports driving in my original review. My review appeared in issue 40 of Games X from February 1992. There were many other Amiga games reviewed in that issue, including Top Banana, Spirit of Adventure, Powermonger World War I Edition and Paperboy 2, the latter of which was awarded our Game of the Week. I pointed out the number of similarities between 4D sports driving and the hard driving series, which had been brought to the Amiga by Domark. Both games featured 3D polygon graphics and a track full of stunts to race around, with many of the obstacles appearing in both games too. The main difference was the number of tracks and cars that were available. 4D sports driving featured 5 circuits and a number of different types of cars to race, from Le Mans style races to rally cars. I felt that it was the gameplay that let the game down the most. I pointed out that both the mouse and joystick controls were a little bit sluggish, and that the keyboard option was my preferred way to play. I also felt that the game was a little bit overpriced at £30 compared to the usual £25 that most new games were at the time. To start with, you'll think it's just plain rubbish, but after a while it should begin to grow on you as you realise there's a fairly addictive game in there. I awarded it 3.5 X's out of 5, with presentation earning 14 out of 20, lastability 12 out of 20, and gameplay 11 out of 20. Here's how that score compares to all the ones that appeared in other Amiga magazines at the time. Now it's time to load the game up and see how it plays today, in the playtest. Right, so this is the menu screen. All you essentially get to do is choose your car and your opponent on your track, so let's do that. So let's have a look at what cars are available. So I have a Lamborghini, is the one that's currently selected. Let's see what we've got. Ferrari GTO, Jaguar. There's a nice selection of cars of different speeds and weight. And then when you go to your opponent, you can either race against the clock or you can race against some preset drivers. So here's Squealing Bernie Rubber. He's got all kinds of problems. So let's race against him then for the first race. So I'll just go straight to the default track and race that one. So here we go. Like all games made by Distinctive, it's got the same look of dashboard on screen, and I'm actually playing this on keyboard rather than on joystick, so using the arrow keys. So let's go. When you're playing on keyboard, you can actually press the D button on your keyboard to get rid of the dashboard on screen if you so wish. This is not a game where you can just blast around all the corners without consequence. Okay, so here's the first stunt that I'm going to have to try and do. Corkscrew. Okay, that was fairly simple. This is on the default setting for graphics as well. I'll see what that is in a second. Doesn't seem to be a great sense of speed at all. I mean, it says according to that dashboard I'm doing what, 80 miles an hour at the moment. Doesn't really look like it at all. And here's the finish line. And that's it. So I finished in 1:58. He was 2:52. He was almost a whole minute behind me. And that's essentially the game. You race around tracks against an opponent or the clock, you then choose another track. So what I can do is I can have a look at the replay, see what we've got. There's some different camera options that you can choose. So what detail is this set on? Oh, okay, it's set on fast with no clouds or scenery. Let's have a look at what it looks like with the full detail. As you can see, it's quite a bit jerkier and frame rate is pretty appalling. This is on the 500. This is being played on the A500 Mini, by the way. Right, so let's try a different car and a different track then, shall we? Hey, this is a different car. I'm now racing a Lancia. It looks like the my opponent is doing so as well. So let's see what this course has in store. I'm just going to go whichever route he takes, that way I can still see him. So it would have been nice if this game had had some checkpoints. Oh, I'm coming up for the first jump. So like if you were racing against the clock and had to get there within a certain time limit, that would have added a great deal to the gameplay, I think. Considering how low detail the graphics are, I would have expected them to be a bit faster and smoother than this, but apparently that's not the case. Ooh, a loop the loop. Not been around one of these yet. Let's see if we can do this first time. Whoa, 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 oh. Oof. Thought I was going to crash. Oh, and here's the finish line. Thought I was going to crash there. Opponent time did not finish. All right, okay, so he crashed. That's why I stopped being able to see him. So if you go into the edit tracks option, you come into the whole editor, and this allows you to mess around with all kinds of scenery. You can start putting corners in. It's all very easy to use. Like I say, it's pretty easy to use, but there's not a great deal of variety to what you can actually put in, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's nice to have the option. He's driving a Lancia again. He's not going to see me for dust. Right, let's go. I can't imagine I'm going to survive very long in this car, but let's see what we can do. Okay, the corner actually went to the left and I missed it completely. And ultimately, I don't think this game is particularly good. I wouldn't really... It's not one that I'll be digging out to play anytime soon. There probably is a decent version of it on the PC, but I don't think the Amiga could actually handle it very well. That's probably the main issue. So I think this is where we'll call it a day for the playtest. And get on to the final summary.
I'm really not impressed with 4D sports driving. The sad fact of the matter is that there's not a lot of game here at all. All you do is you pick a car, a track and an opponent, and then as soon as that race is over, you do it all again. There are no targets to aim for, no time trials and no championships. There's pretty much no point to it at all. It doesn't help that the actual gameplay isn't that great either, regardless of the control method that you use. The joystick control is not very responsive and the mouse control is even worse. Being able to program the buttons on the A500 Mini does help a little, but if you're able to plug in a USB keyboard, that's still my preferred option to play. It's also not that great to look at. The 3D graphics are slow and jerky and have no sense of speed whatsoever. There is an option to lower the detail a little bit and improve the speed, but if you do that, then you won't be able to see anything at all as the draw distance will be that short. There are simply games that came out earlier than this one that have better 3D graphics. The game's one saving grace is the track editor, which is incredibly easy to use. Unfortunately, there aren't that many track pieces that you can clip together, meaning that any tracks you create do all end up feeling the same anyway. The Racing Simulator Super League looks a little bit like this, and as you can see, 4D sports driving is languishing quite near the bottom. There's simply no way that I can recommend that you play this. If you do find yourself wanting to race around a track full of stunts, just play Stunt Car Racer or one of the hard driving series instead, which have aged a lot better than this one. I definitely scored it too highly first time around, and if I was reviewing it today I would give it a 3 or a 4 out of 10. I'm probably also never going to play it again once I get to the end of this video. Thank you for watching this episode of the re-review. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have any memories of playing 4D sports driving, I'd really like to know what you thought of it and whether or not you agree with my assessment. Hopefully in 2 weeks time when I have the next episode I'll have a much better game to cover, as I'll be playing the mascot platformer Titus the Fox. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe to ensure that you don't miss out. If you've missed any of the previous episodes in this series, then there should be a link to the playlist on screen right now for you to click on. All opinions expressed in this video are entirely mine and not those of the UK Gaming Network team. If you want to hear more of them, you can follow me over on Twitter at UKGNZoidberg. Until next time, happy retro gaming, and I'll see you soon.